Hello, welcome to Geeks Unleashed. It's episode 105. I'm Mark.
And I'm Jasmine. And if you are watching us on YouTube, thank you so much. We appreciate that. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, we appreciate that as well. We would also very much love it if you would leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or Spotify.
Also, if you'd be so inclined, please feel free to donate us some of your hard-earned cash on Ko-Fi. Every little helps towards the running of this podcast. So whilst we do it for love, it does cost us money. So we appreciate anything you may incline to give. So,
we gotta pay for the hosting. We gotta pay for the podcast platform itself. There's some things that we gotta pay for, you know?
I mean, literally, if every listener gave us $1,
we'd be set for a couple years.
yeah. I could retire. Anyway, we're gonna this episode was kind of thrown together from what happened last week. So this episode actually is a dedication to Jason David Frank, who played the Green Ranger on and played Tommy Oliver initially. So David Jason Frank was born in 1973 on September 4th and sadly passed away due to suicide on November 19th this year. Not much has been released in the way of the suicide, but I think we would need to talk about the details of that. What I did read was that he was going through a divorce this year, and obviously we don't know what people are going through, whether that had some impact or not. I know the last few years have been quite tough on everybody. And actually seeing, because we're on, myself and Jasmine are on social media, we saw, I felt the impact myself, but I could see the impact across all of the accounts that we follow and people that we're friends with online, and it did seem to be quite a thing that everybody was talking about it. So I think in some ways, you know, he would be probably quite pleased to see the impact of what he meant to people, I think. So I remember when he joined, I don't know how old it was, but yeah, so he joined the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but I was like an early teen. So he joined the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers as the Green Ranger. Rita Repulsa recruited him to be her own Ranger. I don't know if you knew this, but he was only contracted to do 14 episodes, but because of the popularity of Tommy, they brought him back as the White Ranger. So he would go on and be in the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, then Power Rangers Zeo, then Power Rangers Turbo, and then Power Rangers Dino Thunder. He reprised a role in an episode in Power Rangers Ninja Steel. He also was in the movie that we're going to talk about. He cameoed in the other movie that we're going to talk about. And he has played, I don't know if you ever saw it, but he played the Green Ranger in a sort of 10-minute short of him versus Ryu.
No, I haven't seen that.
Oh, okay. Look, go Google it afterwards. It's
okay, really I will.
But it's very gory and
yes, I love it.
It's very adult and but yeah. So obviously, he was known for mainly being the Green Ranger and obviously later the White Ranger. But I've got some stats in front of me. He obviously he was also known for kickboxing. 8th degree black belt in something called Shotokan Karate. I don't know. Do you know that? He also has a variety of experience: Wado Rai, Taekwondo, Judo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. To be honest with you, there's a lot here. And he blended them all together to form his own style, which I didn't know actually until yesterday. Tosu Kundu. So I don't know if I've said that correctly. He also, in 2003, introduced the World Karate Union Hall, introduced into the World Karate Union Hall of Fame. So I do know as well that he did at one point hold a Guinness World Record as well. I found that out yesterday as well. So, but yeah, so kind of, I want to say it's what we touched on earlier, like the impact of like the fans. Actually, the people that's going to obviously get to the most is his children. So two sons and two daughters. So right now, I assume that they're, and for many years, are going to feel the pain of what's happened. But I don't know, like I think me and Jasmine were talking about it. We're just like, I just feel like I want to do an episode for him. So, and I'm not going to lie, I'm a 41-year-old man, but I've always loved the Power Rangers. So, like, I actually have gone back even without having to do this and rewatched the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers just randomly.
It is so hard to rewatch though. Like it is so outdated now.
Oh, do you know what? I've not seen it for a few years, but anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. So, should we talk about the bootleg one and then
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so there was a bootleg one which lasted 14 minutes.
Part of Adi Shankar's Bootleg Universe, which he also did a Punisher short.
Oh, is that the one with actually?
Yeah, with Thomas Jane.
Yeah. So he came back and reprised his role. That was actually pretty good. So,
yeah.
So this was 14 minutes long, and do you want to start talking about it first?
Yeah. So this short again was part of Adi Shankar's Bootleg Universe. It is like his gritty reimagining of what if the Power Rangers were redone in like a modern thing, and not a campy, cheesy kind of way. And in true Adi Shankar fashion, it is hyper violent. It is really dark, but at the same time, like it was really good. I thought it was a really good 14 minutes. Like by the end, it's kind of like a surprise ending, and then at the end, you're just like, oh my god, I didn't see that coming.
It was a cool twist, yeah.
Yeah, it was a really cool twist at the end. So there was a point right before the first season of Castlevania came out where I was writing for a different website, and they were like, hey, we have an opportunity to interview Adi Shankar. Do you want it? And I was like, yeah, I want to talk to Adi Shankar. And we had 20 minutes, and we spent the whole 20 minutes talking about the Bootleg Universe, talking about if Adi Shankar could remake Mortal Kombat, what would that look like? And then we only spent about 5 of our 20 minutes talking about Castlevania. My editor was not happy. But it was just such a fun conversation because you could really like tell that he gets excited about those kinds of things, like about the things that he enjoyed as a kid. So just to kind of like hear him talking about Power Rangers and to hear him talking about video games and how that was the kind of stuff that he loved, you can really kind of see why he does those things so well. It's just he just has like this mad passion for it. He's like us, right? He's like one of those nerds that is just kind of obsessed with those things. So I really loved his take on Power Rangers. A lot of people thought it was too violent.
I loved it. So I was going to say I got the I didn't know everybody that was in it, but I was shocked by the two main people that were in it. James Vanderbeek as Rocky, and Katie Sackhoff as Kimberly, who, if you haven't seen it, it did come out a while ago.
It's 2015.
So I actually, I won't spoil it. So if you haven't seen it, because I know it's not, go. It's not literally on YouTube, and there is quite a cool twist in it. It is basically, it kind of splits between Rocky grilling Kimberly, who played by Katie Sackhoff, who obviously the Pink Ranger. Rocky's kind of switched sides and playing a more military type, and which I think was actually quite a cool take on the character.
Yeah.
And he's grilling Kimberly whilst it keeps flicking to other scenes, like showing Zach, Billy, Jason, Trini.
This is like the first iteration where you get 2 Red Rangers because they talked about Jason and Rocky.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we did obviously in the actual proper Power Rangers universe. Jason actually has come back several times as well. I don't. So I know that Jason did come back in the Turbo movie, which we're not going to talk about. But anyway, so there was they also had Bulk and Skull, people that played Bulk and Skull, but like they actually were like tooled up with guns and all this kind of stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool too. So anyway, and so they kind of like grilling to find Rita, and Like
They're looking for Tommy.
sorry, Tommy. Yeah, they're looking for Tommy. Sorry, but they kind of I liked it as well. So they talked about the
Mhm.
machine. Oh, is it the Machine
So
Empire?
whatever kind of futuristic
Yeah.
world they're in, it's almost like a Terminator world. Like the machines have taken over, and so Rocky switched sides, and he's fighting with the machines instead of fighting with the humans.
Mm.
And that's kind of where this conflict is happening. So he has sort of kidnapped Kimberly, and they're trying to figure out A, where the rest of the Rangers are, and B, specifically where Tommy is.
So I do know that this was put on Vimeo when it first came out. I do remember this, and like they pulled it because obviously Saban put in a copyright claim. I don't know why these people make these things and then think they won't get in trouble. So, but yeah, so but yeah, like when this came out, I was like, this is what they should do.
Yeah, for real. It's
This
so
is
good.
what
It was so good.
I, I honestly, this is so good. This Power Rangers thing. So I thought it was worth us touching on the reboot, 'cause although it was only 15 minutes. There was a reason why I kind of wanted to touch on it because we'll talk about the second. We'll talk about the reboot, the actual official reboot film in a minute. But I kind of felt like the reboot film was halfway between what we had originally and this.
Yeah.
And I thought if they made a TV series like this rebooted universe, this Ali Shankar universe, I would 100%
Oh yeah.
like, oh, be
I would
there.
watch
But,
for sure.
like, it's a much more serious, darker tone universe like this. So I would love it. Get Katie Sackhoff back, Jason Van Vick back. Like, let's go. So
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting too, because like when he's talking about the Black Ranger is still played by a black character in this
yeah,
universe, and
yeah.
so it was like he had gone off from the Rangers and he was doing like kids bop versions of
Oh
hip
yeah,
hop dance videos,
yeah.
and it was really kind of like tongue in cheek because Walter Jones, who played the original Black Ranger Zach, um, was known as like his style of fighting was like hip hop fighting, like is what they called it when the first series came out. And so they played that up in this as well to kind of be like, can you imagine like this black martial artist getting boxed into this category of like being the hip hop guy? So I thought that was also an interesting take that they had in this bootleg universe version.
So I would watch more of this, but
Me too.
anyway,
Yeah,
we
come on,
don't. We
Addy,
don't.
give us a real thing.
Yeah. So anyway, let's jump back in time to 1995.
Dun, dun,
Mighty
dun.
Morphin Power Rangers. I want to reckon. I want to think I was probably like 13 or 14 or something. Um, so basically, Power Rangers was like this thing that you couldn't admit to your friends that you actually liked.
Very true. Very true.
But I know that everybody. I do remember once we were all sitting in the park, like 10 of us, and just chilling out, whatever. And then one guy says, "Come on, let's all admit it. We all like Power Rangers." And like everybody like put their hands up and was like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, we do like Power." Like
Give
everybody
that guy
like
a medal. He was like,
like
look, I'm sick of hiding it, guys. Come on,
like
like we like Power Rangers. It's
we all
fine.
loved Power Rangers. Like we were all into it. So it was like, it wasn't even a thing that we like. We all hid it because it was like, you had to be cool, but
Yeah, yeah,
actually,
yeah.
so anyway, so My Morphin Power Rangers is a spin-off film, kind of slightly. It's out of continuity slightly from the TV series. I thought it would be in between seasons.
Mhm.
So when I watched it, it was a little bit kind of jarring. There was obviously some slight alterations, but it's almost as if it was like a parallel world of the TV show. Because at the time I was watching the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers TV show, and it did some of those plot points are later on brought into the TV series. So we do know that the TV series was equally based off of the Japanese TV series Super Sentai, which we'll talk about, I'm sure. Anyway, so it's based on characters by the Toe Company and Saban Entertainment. It was written by Arn Olsen, directed by Brian Spicer, and like I said, it starred all of the actual people from the TV series, other than a couple of newbies. Jason David Frank, Amy Jo Johnson, David Yost, Karen Ashley, Johnny Young, Bosch, Stephen Cardens, I don't know. So anyway,
Cardenas.
Cardenas, there you go, and Jason Navi, Paul Schreier, and Paul Freeman. Anyway, there you go. That's why I shouldn't do the names, really. Anyway, so it's released on June 30th, 1995. It ran for 96 minutes. It had a budget of 15 million.
And you could feel every tiny penny of that $15 million.
And it made 66 million. That's not a bad return,
Yeah,
really.
that's pretty good. Pretty good.
I'm surprised they didn't do a sequel. So, anyway.
I mean, doesn't Turbo count as a sequel?
Yeah, so I stopped watching Power Rangers before Turbo was a thing. But like I've seen a bit of the Turbo movie and it seemed to be set within continuity, Turbo.
Okay.
I
only ever watched the first season. Like I never watched the new cast.
No, I watched. I stopped watching before Turbo and Zeo. I was watching it, but I remember what happened was we had Sky at the time, Sky Television, and I think that they moved Zeo to a channel that my dad didn't pay for. So then I just dropped off and got older and never cared to go back. So yeah. I can't imagine going back and watching these now because
no, it's painful.
Very
painful.
But yeah, so do you want to do the summary?
All right, so a summary of the first film. A giant purple egg has been unearthed. Lord Zed, Reed Repulsa, Goldar, and Mordaunt arrive at the construction site, crack open the egg, release Ivan Ooze. What a villain name, Ivan Ooze. A morphological being who ruled the Earth 6,000 years ago before he was lured into a hyperlock chamber and buried deep underground by Zordon and a group of young warriors. The Rangers find him, confront him, but Ivan unleashes some ooze. And while the Rangers battle and successfully defeat them, the fight distracts them long enough for Ivan to escape, lay siege to the command center, and Zordon ain't doing so hot. Takes all the power. Now, Alpha 5 only has one little bit of power left to get the Rangers to a different planet, and then they got to find a new power source on their own.
The great power.
Yeah, the great power.
So cheese.
So that definitely reminded me of He-Man. That whole other planet they were on.
So we kind of touched on this a little bit as we were before we went into this, but you said you only watched the first season, but were you a fan? Did you have any?
I mean, I liked it the same way everybody else did. It was kind of like, this is so stupid, but like I can't stop watching it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It was too popular to ignore, I would say. I think it was one of those things you couldn't help but watch. And it was, I guess at the time, that's not what we called it because it wasn't really a thing back then. But like, essentially, some of us hate watched it, right? Just so we could be part of the conversation later at school. But I mean, it was cool to me because even for back then, I thought that of the 5 kids, like it was pretty diverse because you had an Asian chick and a black guy that was part of this group. And so one of the things that I did like about Power Rangers was that I always felt represented, as opposed to just being like, oh, it's this group of white kids from a high school in California, like, so it felt relatable in that sense, which was not something that a lot of the other shows from that time period did. So I did appreciate it for that. And I appreciated that they kept that thread through every iteration of Power Rangers. There was always different people represented in the group.
I definitely was a fan of the Power Rangers. I really enjoyed the show. Even back then, though, I think the episodes I didn't like were the singular episodes. So the formulatic weekly cheese. It was all wrapped up very
Monster of the Week.
The Monster of the Week episodes. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't although that was generally what you got was the Monster of the Week.
Yeah.
What I preferred was the episodes that were several parters, because they would break the formula, and I preferred the breaking of the formula episodes. So I liked, things like Green with Evil, where they introduced Tommy, and the White Light story where he's the White Ranger. I love the multi-parter where they lose all their Dinozords and they introduce the Thunderzords. And I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that you'd ever so I obviously didn't know about Super Sentai or
Uh-huh.
like anything like that. And I didn't know that new Zords would eventually be a thing that they'd introduce. So when all their Megazords got destroyed and they introduced the Thunder Zords, I was like, this is cool. I was like, I remember at the time, like really like this is so cool.
Yeah, yeah,
And like the Thunder Zords felt like a little bit darker to me. Like and
yeah. You're so animated just talking about it.
no, I remember it. Like and I remember that scene where I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Billy. I can't remember exactly what the story was, but they like lost their powers or something, and they're climbing through, and like Zordon and Alpha had disappeared. They didn't know any of them were. Anyway, like I can't remember. I think it was Billy like climbing through like an air vent inside their base, um, and he looks down and he sees. I can't remember if it's Tommy or the White Ranger suit or something like that. And like it was like this cool thing because we didn't know Tommy was coming back as the White Ranger.
Hmm.
So that was cool. And then um, there was a storyline where so Tommy sort of came and went as the Green Ranger, and there was a storyline I remember which I thought was pretty cool. Like all their parents got kidnapped by Goldar and Rita, and they basically had to give all their power coins away or something like that. So
Hmm.
none of them had any power. And then I remember Jason like puts his hand in his pocket and just pulls out the green power coin, and then suddenly you see Tommy just suddenly out of no like Tommy hasn't been in it for like I don't know 5-10 episodes or something. You see Tommy just walk into Angel Grove or wherever it was where the parents were meant to be, and he's like walks around and he's like, "Where is everybody?" Like, and then it kind of the titles come up. It was like the end of part one or something, and then like it just like the music kicks in. It's like Go Green Ranger, like, and I was like, yeah, I was like, Tommy's back, and I was like, Tommy was like probably my favorite character, like, and I was just like, Tommy's back. So, but yeah, and then there was another one as well where they created like a clone of Tommy or something and end up in like Western times. So
Oh my gosh.
when they used to do things like that, I was like, yeah, this is really cool. But
Yeah.
yeah, the Monster of the Week ones are quite dull. But I get it. You can't always do an event like
Yeah.
like you couldn't
And it's
do
geared
constantly.
towards kids. They're not really going to keep that same train of thought the way that adults would for a
Yeah.
20 episode arc. Yeah.
Well, I think now that's changed. Like, I don't know. I think the expectation is that we were stupid back then. Like, when I see some of the things that kids get now, like, I haven't watched this, but like, one of my kids was watching the new Wednesday show on Netflix, which is
Hmm.
at 12. Like, that is like that's quite a dark, show. I could see, like, it felt to me like quite a dark, show. Very much not what I got at 12. So yeah, at 12 we were getting this stuff like, and nothing wrong with the Power Rangers. Obviously it's very
Yeah. Yeah.
90s, it was very our generation, but imagine if we got stuff like Wednesday back then. That would no way be a 12 back in the 90s.
Well, but I mean,
So
I watched a lot of the same stuff that my mom was watching when I was a kid. So I watched a lot of adult TV. Like I was watching Law and Order at 9 all the time. So
what the sexual assault one like?
no, that one hadn't come out yet. I was watching the original Law and Order.
Oh, okay. uh, Sexual assault one, I think it's been on like 20 years. So
Yeah, it's been on for a very
which
long
one is
time.
that called? Which one is that called?
Special Victims Unit.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and yeah, that's definitely not for kids. That one. So. But yeah, anyway, I was a fan. I had some toys as well. I had the red one, the blue one, the black one. I don't think I ever had the green one. Now I actually considering going to get that green one now. So no, I know. Yeah, started something now. So right. Anyway, overall thoughts on this movie. Let's let's go.
I don't remember this movie being filmed in Australia, and like that opening sequence where they're on the rollerblades and they're just kind of rolling around town and they pass under like the Sydney Harbor Bridge, and I was like, the hell? Why are they filming this in Australia? I was very confused. I don't know why it's filmed in Australia. I don't know if that's a money thing or what, but I didn't remember that. So that was kind of fun. Other
maybe
than that,
don't they do tax incentives in certain places to like Canada and Australia?
I'm sure.
And
Yeah. But this movie was so bad. Like it was so bad. And I don't remember disliking it so much. I mean, of course, like when I saw it, it was very close. If I didn't see it in 95, I saw it very close to 95. It I don't know. It fit the tone of the series at the time. It was
Mhm.
very, very in line with the series. But like, I just didn't remember it being so cheesy and so over the top. And I honestly, I don't even know how I forgot about Ivan Ooze, but like, I totally forgot about the villain. And so like when he came on and they were like, "Oh my God, it's Ivan Ooze," I was like, "Oh my God, his name is Ivan Ooze? This is ridiculous."
I remember reading at the time the guy who played Ivan Ooze really struggled because the costume was so thick. Like
Uh-huh.
he'd get so hot on set.
Oh, I
So
bet. Yeah.
um,
Australian summers are hot as shit, man. I'm telling you.
um, yeah, this movie. Yeah, so I remember in '95 I did go and see it at the cinema, and I went with a bunch of friends. We were actually down the coast, and my parents sort of holiday home down the coast, and one of my friends, I'm not going. I'm not going. Like, I'm too cool. I'm too cool. Anyway, my mum's getting us all in the car, me and we're all getting ready to go, and my brother and everything. And then my friend who is too cool sort of comes on over as we're getting in the car.
Hey, you got room for one more?
Yeah. Like, can I come? I was like,
Yeah.
all right, yeah, go on then.
Yeah.
Like,
Get in, you jerk. Come on.
yeah, like, but anyway, I don't remember like initial thoughts at the time, but I have rewatched this movie a lot. I would say over the years. Look, don't get me wrong. I don't think I've seen it for probably at least the last 5 or 6 years.
Hmm.
But rewatching it, the CGI is really, really, really bad. Like
Yes.
so bad. It's like on par with something you would have found in like a Mega Drive. Sorry, Sega Genesis to you. Like computer game with Sonic the Hedgehog. The graphics are so awful.
Yes.
The script is bad. Like
Oh,
we'll talk about
yes.
that in a bit. Like
Yes.
it is a huge cheese fest of just
The only thing that is
terribleness.
cool are the outfits that they are wearing in this background photo when they turn into the Ninjetti.
So I like the Ninja costumes. I like the actual Power Ranger costumes that they created for the movie. I love that the Power Rangers costumes, the actual Ranger costumes, all had like extra stuff. Like I can't remember if it's Rocky had spotlights or something, or they all seem to have like extra gear, which I thought was cool. Like I
Oh
don't
yeah.
think
I used to have the
I
spotlights and Rocky had the like sonar or
yeah
whatever. Yeah.
yeah. So I thought to myself like even in the TV series when they became power when they did their morphin, they never felt like to me like they gained any extra abilities. It just felt
Hmm.
like they gained a costume. Like so in this, at least I felt like there was some additional abilities. Like
Hmm.
I still didn't feel like there was anything other than them getting a costume. But so but anyway, I look, nostalgia wise, I'm always going to enjoy this film.
Hmm.
It is a very much a part of my childhood. I've got a lot of memories attached to this franchise, and I know that I enjoyed a lot of it back then. I guess it's a bit like my whole thing on Masters of the Universe. Um, I love this franchise. Obviously the early days, I only stuck with this original core cast.
Yeah.
I didn't go beyond any. Oh, no, one other character who later on in the TV series. So when Kimberly left, Catherine joined. I think who actually is Australian. But other than that, that was my last cast change. I didn't go much beyond that.
Hmm.
So I was really pleased to see these guys. I was disappointed that we didn't have Jason in the movie, considering I think this came out Jason, Zach, and Trini, obviously. And obviously, unfortunately, Trini sadly did pass away in a car accident not
Hmm.
long after, around this time the film was made, I think. Um, which I didn't know at the time. But I was disappointed to see that it wasn't the original core cast that made
Yeah.
it out. But for me, I was really pleased about the success of the franchise and the success, obviously, these actors as well. Because
Hmm.
like the fact that Jason David Frank's portrayal of Tommy Oliver was only meant to be over 14 episodes, but his popularity with the fan base, which included myself, I love Tommy. Like honestly, that character was brilliant, and I think Jason David Frank did really nail Tommy
Hmm.
as a character. Now, actually, it's probably quite a good way of moving into favorite characters here. So, do you have a favorite character of this movie?
I think favorite character would just have to be Billy. Just by
Yeah.
proxy, Billy was always my favorite because he was the nerdy guy.
Hmm.
And so I always liked Billy. so he just kind of continued to be my favorite.
I think when I looked at this film, like there's obviously six Power Rangers, but you can tell that the two main ones are Kimberly and Tommy.
Hmm.
They're always kind of spotlighted, even at the very end when they're looking out on the fireworks at the end. They highlight the two of them. Any kind of character development seems to, I mean, I say character development's very thin on the ground there, but any kind of even just like emotional or character moments is just
Yeah.
between the two of them.
But it seemed like
So
to imply that they were together. I mean, they
yeah,
are. Yeah. Like, did that happen in the series? I don't remember.
I don't think they ever really were together, but I think,
Officially, but like
like,
unofficially.
yeah, I think it just always seemed like they were together. I think because of that time that we were in, I
Yeah.
don't think they wanted to have them kiss or
A romance or anything.
yeah, I don't. It was very heavily implied that they were together.
Yeah, because like that one scene where they're fighting the dino bones, and Kimberly gets caught and she actually calls out for Tommy, not just calling out for help.
Hmm. I remember there was an episode in the TV series where I think Kimberly's having lunch with one of the other girl. Or it must have been Aisha. Must have been Aisha. And she said something about meeting up with Tommy, and she had some new lipstick or something. So it felt like I don't remember them ever saying from memory that they were together, but it felt like they were. But
Yeah.
anyway, my favorite character, look, it is the White Ranger, Tommy Oliver. I think Jason David Frank was brilliant in this show. Like it is sad, unfortunately, that there's a lot of people out there that don't move on from their franchise, that they become too typecast. But I think he realised that. I think he realised as an actor he couldn't move on. So in fact, what he did was he embraced it, like, and he just kept coming back and kept coming back. And you know, whether that was, like I say, in shorts, you know, him fighting Ryu, or comic conventions, or I think he did a few other shorts where he played Tommy Oliver as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Don't
continued
knock
to
those
come
comic
back.
conventions though. Those guys make a lot of money on those appearance fees. So it's paying the bills.
Oh no, I know the fact that he had four kids. I couldn't afford to have four kids, and like, but the fact that he had four children, and you know, I think he was. I don't know if he had finished, but he was in the process of making a film, which was kind of um, I wouldn't say based off of it. Was it called The Legend of the White Dragon or something? He was making a film or something, which is, I think, um, inspired by the Power Rangers. But yeah, I think Jason David Frank, for me, will always be one of my favorite characters. Whenever I see, because I have seen clips or the odd episode where I've heard that him, I was going to say him, or what's his name? The guy who played Jason. What's his name? Something.
His real name? I don't remember.
Oh, I've forgotten it. Something Austin. I remember it was something Austin. I can't remember. Those two are always my favorite characters from the franchise. So I was disappointed when Jason left. Jason, I think the two actors actually that were the strongest in this were Jason and Tommy. They were very strong leaders, I felt, and he did come across as a strong leader in this movie and in the TV series as well. Now, okay, so let's kind of like break down the structure of this movie. I think actually start with the acting. So, the acting isn't great. The acting is not good. Like
No.
from any of them. When I talked
No.
about Tommy Oliver, Jason David Frank, his acting is not great. Like he is the strongest of
Of the bunch.
six. Yeah,
Yeah.
and obviously that we have obviously our Bulk and Skull, and they introduced a couple of new people like the father and the kid, which they introduced for the movie and they've never seen again. And Ivan Ooze, I think, is actually a really good villain. He hams it up how he should.
Oh yeah. He's very much an 80s villain though. It felt like he was a little bit out of place in a 1995 film, but yeah, no. He definitely earned his keep.
I love Lord Zed is probably my favorite of the villains. When they introduced Lord Zed in the TV series, I was like, this is cool.
I've always liked Zed's costume design. Like as cheesy as everything else was, I thought it just like this ugly, creepy like guy with no skin.
Yeah.
I thought, but like his helmet and his staff with the Z, like I love whoever designed Zed. I love it. I do love his design.
What you know when you think about it with all of these villains, they make one monster a week. Why not just make 12? Like, why not make 12 or 14 monsters? The Power Rangers would be done then.
Yeah.
They only got enough swords for like really one monster. What are they going to do?
I just don't think that the villains think that far ahead, Mark.
No, they and this is the trouble. Even Ivan Ooze, as wonderful as he was meant to be as a bad guy, comes in, he takes that Zordon, and Zordon's on his knees, and this is kind of the bit. This is the bit I wish they'd have done more with. So they get the Power Rangers go back to their base, and they've got enough power to go to this other planet.
Mm-hmm.
And when they arrive on the planet, there's this sort of dinosaur thing, like the bones or remnants of the dinosaur. And
yeah, but it's wearing like a headpiece, like a communicator.
Yeah, as if it had been like an dead alien. And,
yeah.
So some sort of form of intelligence. And they introduced as well this character who
some random bikini-clad woman that really didn't fit in a PG film, if I'm being honest.
Well, her costume was pretty much non-existent.
Yes, it was a few straps of green leather. That's it.
But what I liked about her, she makes reference that if she leaves the planet, she will age as rapidly as Zordon.
Mm-hmm.
So I just felt like I wish they'd done a bit more with exploring this planet. I would actually like to see more of this planet. And maybe some of these dinosaur things, although then again the CGI would have been awful. So
yeah,
but I felt to myself like, how cool would it have been if a lot of this was off world? Like we only come back towards the end with Ivan Ooze.
Yeah.
Or even not necessarily that Ivan Ooze even is on Earth. I get that the stakes were higher when they had civilians to save when they went back.
Mm-hmm.
But I did like the fact that we introduced essentially a new society and a new world, and I just wish they'd done a little bit more with it. But I guess this is of that world, that generation. So I kind of wanted them to explore a little bit more of all of that. But I did like that they went off world though to get this new power and resurrect their abilities and gain some new Zords, which are obviously their ninja Zords, which I think that followed the Thunder Zords. But yeah, the script is fairly wooden. It's full of one-liners, cliches. Like
yes.
Like
oh my god, it is so 90s. Like all of the villains have these ridiculous 90s catchphrases. They are quintessential 90s. You could not watch this movie and not know what time period it was from.
Do you want to play Kick the Can? When they're jumping out the plane, bonsai. Like
one of the villains at one point is like, "See ya, wouldn't want to be ya." It's like, no, come on.
So anyway, it's basically a really cheesy script, no real effort put in. No, there's one little moment on the planet where Kimberly turns to Jason. It's like, oh, I'm so upset about Zordon. Like, I was like, oh, come on. Kimberly Hart, sorry, not Kimberly Hart. What's her name? Amy J. Johnson. Her acting, unfortunately, is not the best. I did see her later on in Covert Affairs on TV, and her acting had vastly improved. So
for a long time, she was on a long-running show. What was it? FBI or
no? It was like she was like a policeman or policewoman or SWAT or something. I do think she's probably done the best in terms of moving on. But I don't think anybody else has. So
not so much.
Did you have any favorite scenes in the movie?
Yeah. The ridiculous scene of Ivan Ooze selling his ooze to the kids and every line had to rhyme. I was just like, this is the worst, but this is the best. I mean, it was, I don't know. It was at that point, it's just like, whatever happens. Like, this is all par for the course. But again, that guy who was played by, what was it? Paul Friedman, I think. Yeah. Like, he was just all in, and you could tell that he was all in. And so because he was putting so much effort into it, it really, I thought all of his scenes came out well, but it was the one where he was selling the ooze, and if your parents don't like it, just throw it in their faces. And the kids are all like, haha.
I liked, I liked the fight scene quite at the beginning when after they meet Ivan and they have to fight. They all have their own version of the putties, don't they?
Mhm.
And like the music kicks in, it's like action boy now,
Yeah.
action girl now. Like, and I thought that was a really cool scene. Like when they're, and then they all get thrown into a group, and Tommy's like, right, we need to power up. Like, and they all morph and become Power Rangers,
Yeah.
and then they go sort of into the sort of car parking lot or whatever, and they're like, and I thought that was quite, for me, I felt that quite felt a little bit darker than it normally would on the TV show. So I was like, this is a cool moment, but
Mhm.
then it kind of did resort back to
Yeah.
form after that.
You know
So
what threw me off though is that they said the Zords out of order, and I was not used to that because I only watched the first season, so I am very much used to the order that they went in the first season when they morphed. And so
hmm.
like this one was different, and I was like, why is it different? Why aren't they morphing in the same order? This is stupid.
Yeah, I used to love that Dragon's Lord. Right.
Oh,
Anyway, Dragon's Lord was gone. Right. So, what would you rate this? Do you know what? I think with this,
I
I
got
was
two
like,
ratings.
yeah, that's what I was about to say. Probably rate it for how you'd rate it back then, and then rate it for today, because I
Yeah.
think, like, you know, nostalgia wise, it's like a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, I was
So,
gonna say like back then it fits exactly with the tone that they had already set for the Power Rangers. Like it is a continuation. It doesn't feel out of place. Everything is the same. You're very used to it. So 5 of 5 continuity wise, as far as like it fitting into the Power Rangers universe of the 90s.
hmm.
Today, this movie gets a 1 out of 5.
Wow.
Actually, it probably get much lower than that, but I'm gonna stick with a 1. The 1 for 2022 rating, it gets a 1.
Yeah, I think I would probably back then. I know I loved this film. I loved it for years. Like definitely about 10 years after it came out, I was watching this. I don't know, once a year or something like that. I loved this film, and I remember sometimes just it was like me and some friends would just shove it on the telly, like, and but now I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to go. I'd probably give it a 2 out of 5 now.
Okay.
But back then it would have gone more, like definitely higher. So anyway, time moves on.
It does.
The
It
franchise,
does.
the television series still is continuing. I think it's due to have some sort of anniversary. I can't remember, a special coming up.
I
I
imagine with his passing, there's going to be something happening sometime
no.
soon.
There was an anniversary special coming, and he was meant to be in it. Uh, and he had already announced his retirement from the Power Rangers, saying that he would, after this, no longer get involved in anything Power Rangers related, and
Hmm.
he was wanting to. Jason David Frank was wanting to move on. Um, and the franchise was being brought to a like so I don't know if you knew this, but all the TV shows, so the Power Rangers TV shows that are even on now are still a continuation from that original show when we were kids.
Hmm.
So although they reboot it, they kind of semi reboot it with sort of new cast, new setting, new Zords every couple of years. I
Yeah.
think what they tend to do is change the cast every 2 or 3 seasons now. Probably a way of keeping their costs low.
Yeah.
So because obviously, these people that they recruit are fairly badly paid. I would have thought.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
but
mean,
it's
a
a,
$15 million budget for a cast with 6 main people. Like, yeah.
yeah. So that you can only imagine what they get paid in the TV world. So
Yeah.
I do know that they occasionally, because like I say, they occasionally bring back, um, you know, the people that played the original Jason and Tommy and stuff like that. I think those two are the main ones that mainly come back. I don't know about any of the others. But all of that is meant to be coming to an end soon,
Hmm.
and they are meant to be rebooting it like a proper brand new reboot on Netflix. And
Oh.
what I read was that this rebooted world, so this 2017 movie isn't getting a sequel, and there will be a reboot which is going to be on the television on Netflix. But also they said that they may do movies that will be part of the TV world.
Hmm.
So they said it'll be. I was reading that it'll be a bit like Star Trek. How the original Star Trek with uh,
William Shatner.
William Shatner and the Next Generation cast and all that. When they had movies, the TV show and the movies were kind of the shared universe. So they're sort of talking
Hmm.
about doing something similar like that. I imagine they probably have seen the success of the DCEU
Well, but also
and
Saban
the
sold their
NCEU.
rights to the Power Rangers to Hasbro back in 2018. and Hasbro has Transformers. Like Hasbro builds their brand on merchandising, so I'm pretty sure whatever they're gonna do, it's gonna be pretty cool. Like there's been a couple of Transformers things that have come out on Netflix. They've been animated, but they've still been really good.
Mm-hmm.
So
so do you want to introduce
all right.
the name?
Power Rangers in 2017. Same deal, same characters from Toei and Saban. This one was written by John Gatness. It was directed by Dean Israelite. It stars Decker Montgomery, Naomi Scott, R.J. Seiler, Becky G, Ludi Lin, Bill Hader, Bryan Cranston, and Elizabeth Banks. We also have cameos from Jason David Frank and Amy Jo Johnson.
It was released in March 2024, 2017. It ran for 124 minutes, a budget of 105 million US dollars, so fair amount more.
Mm-hmm.
Box office, it made 142.5 million. So although it did
40 million profit, but that wasn't enough to impress the people in charge, unfortunately.
I mean, from what we've seen, is normally sequels, they want a bit more money in terms of budget.
Yeah.
And if it's not,
but it still did really well merchandising. So it did really, really well in sales when it came on DVD and Blu-ray, and then it did really well with all of the merchandising that came with it for the 2017 film. I think this is just me. I think COVID got in the way. I think they had been moving in a direction in 2019, late 2019, where they had finally found a way to start a sequel. And then of course COVID happens in 2020, and I think after that they were just like, fuck it. Like, we're not doing anything with this.
Didn't the movie rights expire or something like that? So.
Well, so what they said was Saban didn't renew the licensing for this specific logo of that film for 2017, and Saban's response was, we renew 50 bajillion different Power Rangers properties. Like if we renew or don't renew a specific thing, it doesn't mean that we have lost control of the franchise. So there was a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of back and forth because that was also, again, Saban Entertainment sold Power Rangers rights to Hasbro right before this film, or right after this film came out. So now it's in Hasbro's hands, and I think Hasbro has a lot more money. They paid $522 million cash for the rights to Power Rangers. So I don't think Hasbro is going to just not do anything. It's a shame though if they don't kind of use the same cast. I really enjoyed this reboot. I mean, I really did. I think this was one of the better ways that a franchise has been updated, especially one that was so hokey and cheesy and just so very dated from before. Like this update felt like something that I could watch a sequel, a third, or a second or a third film for.
I don't know. I remember this when I was younger. I think Saban sold the rights initially to Disney, and then he bought them back.
Oh, I don't know. So, maybe
I don't know
how you have enough money to buy it back from Disney.
So, in summary, the summary of the movie. So originally, this movie starts like 65 million BC, in the
Cenozoic
era. So warriors known as Power Rangers are tasked with protecting life on Earth and the Zeo Crystal. I thought that was cool how they brought in the Zeo Crystal. The Green Ranger, Rita Repulsa, betrays them and plans to dominate the universe. The Red Ranger, which is Zordon, I thought that was cool that they gave Zordon a bit more of a backstory, survives Rita's attack and hides 5 of the power points. He orders Alpha 5, his robotic assistant, to perform a meteor strike that kills him at the dinosaurs and sends Rita to the bottom of the sea. Foiling her scheme, this film picks up 65 million years later in a town called Angel Grove. So, do you know what? I would never want to live in Angel Grove. Or Gotham City.
Angel Grove and whatever the hell the town is that Buffy lives in.
Well, that town is gone now. So, when season 7 happened, that town also
swallowed up by the Hellmouth.
Yep. So, anyway, did I like this treatment? Yes, I did. I rewatched it last night before we recorded, and I did watch it when it came out. not watch it at the cinema. So unfortunately, I didn't contribute towards that income. I wish now I had it done because maybe my ticket might have pushed it over the line.
Your $17 would have helped, man. Come on.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good reboot. I loved the character development of all of them. I loved the characterizations of all of them. I loved the fact they actually had actors that could act. I loved the fact they had a script that actually wasn't one note. The CGI was actually decent CGI.
Yeah.
There was humor, there was laughter, there was clear emotions from all of these people. The villains actually had a bit of humor as well. The Zordon actually felt like a bit of personality, and what I loved was actually people wanted Bryan Cranston because his first ever role was in the TV series as a villain, as one of the monsters of the week. So I remember that whole thing, like when Breaking Bad was on, it was like, oh, Bryan Cranston's first ever role was in Power Rangers as one of the monsters of the week, and and because of his fame of Breaking Bad, they were like, he's got to come back for Power Rangers, and he did. He was back as Zordon. And like to see that he was a Power Ranger was so cool. I thought that was a really cool start, and I love the fact that this is like a really, really good origin movie. It started to make me think. I wish now, because the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was out of continuity, they should have just done like an almost completely out of continuity, and they could have actually had a sort of almost film franchise running separate to the TV. Sort of out of continuity. But I think back then in the 90s, people wouldn't have got that. Anyway, I thought it was a really good movie. There was just so many sort of touching moments. The little campfires, the detention that they all get in detention for something that they've done, and that Kimberly's got some sort of backstory before the movie. Jason's got backstory. And what I love is that Jason actually isn't the good boy that he is in the TV series. He's trying to nick a cow when this film first starts. Like,
he stole the other team's mascot. That is a thing that they do in high school.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool. I love a lot of this film, and the action sequences are brilliant. I really did enjoy this sequence, and towards the end, I thought it was great that they recognised the contribution that Jason David Frank and Amy Jo Johnson did to this franchise and brought them back as cameos. And I love the fact that even Jason is wearing green and she's wearing a pink jean jacket.
Yeah.
So that was a cool little nod. So
I wonder if it was like, were they still Rangers and realized like a new set of Rangers had been turned over? Like, was that the nod, or I don't know.
Well, I mean, on the credits, it doesn't have their names. What I like to think is that this is a parallel world, and Tommy and Tommy and Kimberly have come over, and they're sort of giving their, from a distance,
passing of the torch.
Yeah, that's how I'm imagining it. Like, that's obviously not what happened. They're just meant to be they're obviously just meant to be people that live in the town. But how cool would it be if there was actually a backstory to that? So that actually Tommy and Kimberly had ended up on that Earth. Maybe like they had their own mission. Maybe they were meant to. Maybe they did something that no one knew about. Made sure that Jason got caught that day, so he didn't.
Made sure that those kids found a way to get together.
Yeah. Maybe like how cool. How cool would it be if there was like, obviously they can't do this now, but how cool would it be if they did like a little TV special where Tommy and Kimberly were like in the background getting those 5 kids together. So like, anyway, this is all in my head. None of this is real. So just I mean, I guess.
I loved it because this was the first time we actually get an origin story before these kids get power.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting to see. It was, I mean, it's still very formulaic, like very Breakfast Club, like all these kids meeting in detention and finding a way to come together and actually work as a team. And then they wind up friends at the end. But like, it was interesting. And they kept all of the original Ranger names. So we get Training back. But like they change it up in all the right ways to me. Like we get our first LGBT character, and then you've got Billy, and Billy admits to being like on the spectrum. So it's still a diverse cast. We still have, the Black character, we still have the Asian character. Now we have a Latina character. I love that they kept the diversity. I love the changing up the colors of the people. Like I like that I like that Billy again, like just favorite character. Like he was so great. But like I love the way that they all kind of at first they're like, this is totally stupid. Like there's no freaking way. And then when they all realize that they have powers, they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Let's jump canyons. like they still do very like stupid teenager things.
I love it when they all five of them get in the water and Billy's like, I'm black. They're like, mate,
no, you're not.
Was it not? Was it not? Yeah, no, sorry.
No,
it's not him. No, not him.
It was Zach said that. Yeah.
Zach said I'm black. It's like, no, you're not. Like, yeah.
But I love the update. I love the change of the costumes. I love it when they finally morph and you get to see the way that like their skin just takes on the armor. I liked that they tamped down Alpha 5's annoyingness. So we do get the
funny. Yeah, Alpha 5 is funny now. Like funny.
Instead of just like unbearable. We do get a few of the IIIs, but it's not like just an over like he actually has a bit of substance. I think Bill Hader does a really good job with Alpha 5. And Zordon is kind of a dick. And I think like they played that part pretty well. And it was interesting that the relationship between Zordon and Jason is contentious almost until the very end of the film. And I thought that they did that well because I think that seems a bit more like par for the course because I just can't imagine.
He wanted to use them really.
Because he wanted to come back because he thought he was hot shit and he was the only one that could defeat Rita. But like I think in this day and age, teenagers especially would not just accept some talking wall telling them that they now have these powers and it's their job to save the universe. Like those kids would be like, screw you, man. Like I'm not doing none of that. So I thought that the relationship between Zordon and the Rangers played well for this, especially for this being like an origin film. And then you can kind of see how there could be growth there if there were any other films to come after this. But I thought that they did balance really well of telling you these kids' individual backstories while also giving you like a Power Rangers backstory. So I don't know, like people gave this film a lot of trouble, but I really enjoyed this film. Like I enjoyed it back then. And I still enjoy it now.
No, I really enjoyed it. And yeah, so characters themselves. So we've got 5 Power Rangers rather than 6, which is good. Like,
there is a mid-credit scene.
Well, yeah, there is a mid-credit scene. So we have 5 Power Rangers. We have our Zordon, we have our Alpha. I love the fact that some of these people we actually get to see their parents, which was so unusual for the TV series, especially Jason's dad and the relationship between them. I love that actually when he steals the cow, Jason's dad is like, you know what, no, when I think you haven't done anything stupid, basically, like then you go and do something even more stupid.
Yeah.
And but that opening sequence actually, to talk about Jason and his dad, when that opening sequence where Jason is stealing the cow and then he nicks a car, rolls a car. It was actually a statement to say, actually, this is very different from what you knew. Like that opening scene would never have happened in the TV series or the movie from 1995. This was setting the bar that this is a different world. Like this is not what you guys got in the 90s. This is now the 2000s, and you're getting something else. So, anyway,
we're not the goody goodies you remember us to be.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like all of these 5 Power Rangers are not goody people. They're not white knights. They've all got their own problems, and so throughout this film you see these 5 characters overcoming their problems. And Jason is very much not the leader at the beginning. Whilst he possesses, you can see some leadership qualities. So in detention, when he stands up for Billy, that is brilliant. Honestly, that scene where he slaps the guy, like the guy goes to punch him and he like dodges it, and then he slaps him. He's like, "You slapped me." He's like, "Yeah, I know." He's like, "Weird, right?" And I was like, that's just such a good line. I was like, you slapped me. Yeah, weird, right? I mean, when I talk about favorite character, it is going to be from these guys. And I'm torn so heavily between
Jason and Billy.
Jason and Billy. And to be honest, Kimberly as well. Like, I think the 3 of them, for me, are favorites in different ways. I'm not saying Zach and Trini weren't characters I enjoyed watching, but their character development was lower. They kind of introduced them a little bit later into the film. They introduced those three first.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the character development of where Kimberly clearly was probably, I would imagine, before the film, kind of the golden child, of the cheerleading team. And then there's obviously she's now an outcast. However,
Mm-hmm.
she still semi retains that popularity in the school, but just not with the cheerleaders anymore.
Yeah.
And
You
then
know
we've
that
got,
scene in the bathroom where she cuts off her hair at the very beginning?
yeah,
She actually
yeah.
did that.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah, she
okay.
actually cut off her real hair.
So Billy is hilarious, absolutely hilarious. And I love the dynamic between him and Jason as well. And I love how Billy feels he has to justify himself to Jason, and Jason stops him and says, "No, we're cool, man.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to explain.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jason saw who he was, but
Yeah.
he was like, no, you don't need to tell me, like
Yeah.
that you've got that you're on the spectrum or autism or whatever your things are. Jason's like, we're cool,
Yeah.
like, and I liked that. But they didn't even know each other that long, and Jason's like, no, we're good.
Yeah.
And I love that Jason instantly Jason and him were clearly never going to be friends in the normal world, but for some reason they did bond, and they like.
But I think
Jason,
that was interesting because like Jason is the jock, right? He's a quarterback of the football team, which means he's like the king of the class, like, but he's not the typical jock. Like he gets in trouble, he gets arrested, he's got an ankle bracelet, he's on house arrest. Like he is the epitome of like the wild child, but at the same time, like still has the responsibilities of, being the leader. And I thought that dynamic played pretty well. Like it was just kind of different than what you normally see.
I think he's the opposite of what we had in the TV show. So,
Yeah.
well, I would say, like, I struggling to pick a favorite, but it's between Jason and Billy, but also Kimberly, and I love the story and character development between the three of them throughout this movie. Billy is definitely the funniest of all of them.
Yes.
At the end, when they get the swords, and he's like, "Yippee-ki-yay, mother!"
Yeah,
we'll stick with mother. He honestly is so good. So
yeah.
I take it Billy's your favorite too.
Billy, again, favorite. Like I've always the nerd and the brains are usually always going to be my favorite characters, and this time Billy had so much more personality than the Billy that we're used to seeing. And so to get to see that, I thought that he to me he was also like the heart of the team, right? Everybody kind of rallied around him, especially in the sequence when he drowns. That was actually really emotional, like because like you don't expect that in Power Rangers, right? Like this is the first of pretty much any of the Power Ranger things that got up to a PG-13 rating. So all of the other Power Rangers films and the series had been just like rated PG. So they took this up a notch. Not, still not bad, but like to actually kill a character, like that was pretty ballsy. And for it to have been Billy and to finally see the team kind of rally around him the way that they did, he to me was definitely the thing that was keeping them together. Like he might not have been the team leader, but he was definitely the glue that kept this team together. And you really felt that it didn't feel forced. Like RJ Seiler does a really good job of making you like him. Like Billy is very likable, and so when that emotional bit happens and Rita Repulsa kills him, it's kind of like, oh shit, like hold on, wait a minute, we got kids dying in Power Rangers now, like what is happening here? But like the way that they kind of redeem that and reverse it kind of works. And that happens later in the film, but like it's sort of the turning point that clicks everything into place. And I just think that Billy was the right character for that to happen to, because I don't think you would have had the same emotional impact if it had happened to anyone else. So I just enjoyed him. Like his comedic timing was great. He was smart. He was weird, but he like was very open and honest about his weirdness. And I don't know. I really like this cast. And like, it was one of those things where I remember liking this film back in 2017, but I don't remember anyone else liking it in 2017. And it's just kind of like, but why? Like, why did anyone else like this? I thought it was this was pretty good. Like it was a pretty solid origin film.
Yeah. I think, touch on the script. I think the script was really good. The language between all of the characters was fluid. It wasn't. Do you know, there's only what there's a couple of probably one-liners in there, but generally this was a solid script. It flowed well. It felt real between all of them.
Yeah.
And the one-liner that stood out at me, and I'd forgotten about it obviously until my rewatch. It made me laugh. Was when Rita says, "Make my monster grow."
Yeah.
And that clearly was for us, like the '90s kids, like because that's what Rita used to say in the TV series.
Whenever she wanted Goldar to get bigger.
Yeah. And so obviously somebody who hadn't watched the original would just shrug that off.
Yeah.
But I loved all of it. I think that even having Zordon be a dick was brilliant. So because Zordon was so passive in the TV series, he didn't really tell them off. Like although he probably was a slight father figure in the TV series, it's it was whatever. But I don't know like I say, the structure of this whole film was put together really well. It was a decent origin film. They didn't rush into being Power Rangers, which I think sometimes you can make the mistake of rushing somebody into a superhero costume quite well. Like a bit like Batman Begins. How we didn't get Batman Begins so we didn't get Batman for like an hour into the film or something.
Yeah.
This was the same. And also when they morphed, it wasn't like easy to morph. That's what they made this. They made this more of a thing.
Right. It took this was over 2 hours. It took them over an hour to get to the point. It was like almost an hour and a half before they actually morph. Billy morphs accidentally, but you don't really see it. You just kind of see him in the armor. But that's why it's impactful. Like when they finally click and they finally morph, it like it's one of those hell yeah, this is awesome kind of moments because it feels earned. And versus Jason like if they had morphed the first time, it would have been like, oh, here we go.
Well, in the TV series, they were in Power Rangers costumes within the first episode. I remember in the first episode, they all walk out of the command center. Oh, we're not doing this, and they get attacked by putties or whatever, and then they end up in Power Rangers. And they were literally by the end of the episode, they're Power Rangers within 20 minutes. I mean, so lame, really. But but this, like I say, it was earned. And when they do finally become that, I remember Jason saying it's morphin time. That was they didn't do any of the cheesy Tyrannosaurus or any of that, which I'll be honest, I would be cool with. I would have been cool with it. I love it. I wanted that. I used to love it when it used to come up. Tyrannosaurus, pterodactyl. Like, I hated when they moved away from that. Like, I'll be honest, Falcon's Order was cool. But anyway.
Well, I also like that they updated the costumes. Like, instead of, because with the Power Rangers originally, like, it's not updated because they didn't dub it, right? So, like, their face masks, and then when they put their helmets on, like everything is ADR. So they come back in and they do all of the voiceover work on top of that. Whereas in this film, as you can see in my background, they have their helmets, but like the face plates of the helmets come off so that you can still see their expressions and see their faces. So that removes a lot of the cheese factor because now they don't have to be so handsy when they're acting because now we can see their faces. And so I thought that was a really, really cool update instead of us getting the all like, it's morphin time, like all of that kind of stuff that they do.
Well, in the TV series, they would, if they did have their helmets off in the command center, they'd hold them under their arms and they could open them and put them over their heads and then clip them down. So, but that was kind of the only thing they could do. Obviously, TV show budget versus movie budget. It's the same when they made Stargate into a TV series. I don't know if you remember Do you remember Stargate? Did you ever see Stargate? So
the film, I love the film. I never watched the series.
So in the film, those serpent people, and they had the CGI would make the shutters in their faces go up and down. In the TV series, when they first did the TV series, it was like a headpiece that went on and off. It was, it was and it was huge as well, like a huge headpiece. It was so cheese. So, but this is where you get a property versus movie property versus a TV property, and so anyway, I love this. I actually wouldn't change anything about this. I think it was done really well. It was a solid reboot for me. I think they did really well to take from the original source material. And I think it's a really strong reboot.
Definitely. I think they used their budget really well. I think for the $100 million that you got, we got these really slick new uniforms. We got these, and the way that the Zord comes together, the Megazord comes together, like it's really different than in the series. And I know a lot of people were upset about that because they're like, oh, but they're not all in the same cockpit. And I was like, okay, so what? Like, they're not all in the same cockpit. Like, it's fine. And I thought,
but that was about the team working together, though.
right,
Like,
right. But I also thought it was cool because the Zord or the Megazord looks different. It doesn't look like a saber-tooth arm and a
mm,
mastodon leg. Like, you know what I mean? Like it looks like a solid robot. So I thought that update was cool as well. Like I thought that they took the source material and they looked at it and they were kind of like, for 2017, like, or at the time 2016, like, how can we make this look like it belongs in 2016 versus looking like it belongs in the 90s? And so I
yeah.
thought that the updates that they did choose to make made a lot of sense. And I think that they just showed well on screen.
So ratings. What would you give it out of 5?
Honestly, I give this movie a 4.
I feel like I'm gonna give it a 4.5. You know,
Oh wow, okay.
I think it's a really good reboot. You know,
Yeah,
like you can't fault. There's nothing wrong with it. There's strong
yeah,
acting, strong script, strong CGI, good setting. You know,
yeah,
good supporting cast as well. Even the supporting cast isn't wooden.
yeah.
There's good dynamics between everybody. We'll quickly just talk about. Actually, we didn't talk about. We'll talk about that mid-credit sequence. Um, so it goes back to detention again,
Mm-hmm.
and the guy's like, oh, you know, doing a roll call of the people, and then he shouts out Tommy Oliver, and it shows an empty desk,
With the
and
green jacket on it.
yeah, with a green jacket on it, which was a cheesy '90s nod,
Mm-hmm.
but like, and then you see it going down the hallway, and he's like Tommy Oliver, and then that's it, and I was like, why did we not get a sequel to this film? Like,
Yeah.
the sequel would have been so clear. You know, Tommy Oliver would have been a bad guy. He would have been probably the main villain. Um, that's what I reckon they would have done. They would have made Tommy Oliver the villain
And then by the end, he's
film.
a good guy.
Oh yeah, by the end they've saved him, etc. But
Yeah.
he, you know, and I reckon my theory is if Tommy Oliver had come in, because it was clear that Kimberly and Jason were a love interest in this film.
Mm-hmm.
I
Oh yeah,
think
they
if
cut
Tommy Oliver,
all of those scenes, by the way. There
what's
had
that?
been like a kissing scene and all of this other stuff, and like their first audience test reactions were negative, very negative to that relationship. And so they were kind of like, all right, let's just cut that out of the final version. So they did.
They wouldn't have bothered me, but because I reckon what would have happened is they'd have brought Tommy Oliver in. I think you would have seen a love triangle. That's what I
Uh-huh.
think you would have seen. And they
Yeah,
always they love triangles in TV series,
of course.
and films. So anyway, that's our episode dedicated to Jason David Frank, who in most pop culture circles is quite well loved and or very well loved. So obviously, we condolences to his family and close friends. And whilst we have never met him, we know there's a lot of people in our world of geeks that have met him, and I've seen a lot of people share photos. So, you know, he's going to be very well missed. And yeah, so it's kind of all I can really say. But I'm glad that I got a chance to rewatch these films and do an episode for him. I hope you did too.
I did enjoy it. It was a nice trip
Um,
down memory lane.
So for our next 3 episodes, I'll just let you know what we're doing. So we're going to do a couple of double features. So next week we are going to do because I know these aren't Christmas films, but they're like nice films. So we're going to do Men in Black 1997 next week and the Men in Black 2 from 2002. The following week we are going to do Men in Black 3 and Men in Black International.
Mm-hmm.
That will be our last official Geeks Unleashed episode of the year. And then the following week, we haven't done it all year, unfortunately, but the book club is coming back this month. So
Because we made Scott Pilgrim a Christmas story. So
so the last 2 years, I can't believe 2 years, right?
I know, right?
So last year we did Scott Pilgrim Volume 2. The previous year we did Scott Pilgrim Volume 1. And then to end our year, we are going to end with Scott Pilgrim Volume 3.
Yes.
I actually, because it's been a while, will reread Volume 1 and 2. And then we'll be back with Rockin' Robbie Billups from the Pop Culture Philosophers for our now annual Scott Pilgrim review.
Yes.
And we did last year do like an end of year special episode. What we're going to do actually is just do something a bit live on Instagram on the same day we do the book club.
Yeah.
And
so come hang.
Yeah, we'll let you know near the time because people won't remember now. So you can follow us on social media. We're Geeks Unleashed everywhere: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
And you can get this podcast wherever you get your podcast. Google, Podbean, Apple, Spotify. We are everywhere. So please leave us a 5-star review and tell your geeky friends.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for listening and have a good journey.
Good journey.
I decided to do that in the end because you keep doing it. So
It's staying. It's staying.
oh,